So I'm going to be in James chapter 5. I'm not sure yet. We may hit one more passage here in James. It would seem to work out that way if we're going to jump into the Advent season from this. But now I've got to sneeze, figure. But I want to start out with this because when Jesus or God gives me the same thing over and over, and this happened within the course of like 18 hours, I tend to pay attention. Catches my attention. I'm like, okay, what are you trying to say? So yesterday I was up here all day doing class, Bible, for my course of study that I have to do as part of my licensing and all that stuff in Methodist Church. And the teacher got on, and he was talking about, he's always been puzzled by something a student told him once. The student was just all semester long riding him, telling him how horrible he was as a teacher and everything. And it came down, I have to turn in a thesis paper here in about a month. And it came time for them to turn in this thesis paper. And he was reading through it. He was like, well, this sounds like not their work. So he did an internet search and found the website where they printed off their thesis paper. They plagiarized it. And so he sent, it was already a difficult situation. This girl did not like him anyways. So he sent her an email and said, hey, look, here's the link to the website I found. Did you get your thesis paper off of this website? Her response baffles me. She told him, first of all, that he must not be a very good pastor because he's not very nice. And as a pastor, you're supposed to be nice. And that's what kind of he's been thinking about, because she said he wasn't nice. As a pastor, you're supposed to be. And secondly, she said the reason that she plagiarized it is because it was a side effect of some medicine she was taking. He said, can you get me the medication so I can check the side effects? I'm not saying it can't happen, but that's kind of bizarre, I'm on Wellbutrin. It makes me plagiarize things or whatever. But she never sent the medicine, and but he was left with a thought about, our pastor's always supposed to be nice. So we watched the video, and he explained to us later we can't always be nice. And there's a reason for that. And he showed us a video of, it was an Australian gentleman. I can't think of his name now. So we watched this video, and he talks about it. He says, people view Jesus as being nice, but, Jesus was loving. He was kind. He was truthful, but he wasn't always nice. And he said, Jesus questions our idols. And it's in the questioning of those idols that we find him to not be so nice. And I thought, well, that's profound, because when Jesus starts pointing out the idols in my life, I'm like, leave me alone, Jesus. Not now. You're supposed to be nice. What are you doing? And, I'm sure when Jesus was in the temple throwing tables over because they turned it into a marketplace, I'm sure the people weren't like, look at this nice guy throwing our tables and stuff over. Such a nice dude. So no, Jesus wasn't always nice. He didn't come across as being nice. And you know what? Sometimes pastors aren't going to be either. Today may be one of those days. God may challenge you today and your thoughts and some of the things that we have dealt with, particularly in the last couple of years. I know he has challenged me, some of my thoughts and some of the things that the way I see things. And I'll say this. I'm not going to read from either of these prophets. You can go check me on your own. Amos, prophet, he spoke to Israel. And what he spoke in Israel was a warning to those oppressing the people of Israel. Now, Israel was doing very well financially at the time. And there was a situation that came up where the rich were getting richer, and they were starting to push back and down on those who weren't as rich. And God had a warning for them. Had a warning because it was kind of becoming a widespread issue that you need to stop this or, we're going to have problems. Well, the problems came because they didn't stop. Zephaniah, another minor prophet. Well, they call him minor, but he's one of the 12 minor prophets. He was prophesying in Judah, the southern kingdom. And from what I can tell, it was about the same time as Amos. But his prophecy and his warning stemmed more on idol worship that was going on in Judah. And I actually did do a little background on this one. Zephaniah was prophesying in the time of King Josiah. And if you were to turn to 2 Kings, I think 22 or 23, you can see the story of Josiah. He was a good king. Things were going well. They were people of God. And when he died, his son took over. His son was king for 3 months. His son was an evil king. He started to turn people away from God. They started putting back in the high places. And the warning that Zephaniah gave of things to come started to come to pass. And you see, I didn't do the math on this, but it was a short time later, maybe 2 or 3 kings later, that Babylon come in and took over Judah. They didn't heed the warnings. Now, in both of these prophecies, God does promise to take care of the remnant, those who are pursuant of him. And I believe he did that. Why wouldn't he? He's God. He said he would. Let's read James chapter 5, starting with verse 1. It says, "Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you. Your wealth has rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workers who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourselves in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the innocent one who was not opposing you." That's a pretty tough warning to people who are oppressing the rich people of that time. But the more things change, the more they stay the same. Here in America, we tend to view oppression as that of the poor, destitute, and minorities. But I'm going to tell you today, you are being oppressed. And this is the first part where you might be like, I don't know if I like this. Stick with me. And, Satan's going to attack, and he's going to try to tell you to get up and leave. I'm not coming back. There's a whole litany of things that could happen here with what I'm about to tell you. But take it into consideration. And if you have questions, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. You are being oppressed based on the definition. Here's the definition of oppression: prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. Have we experienced prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control? I would say yes. Because over the last year and a half, 2 years, while COVID has been going on, information has been suppressed from us. People with, mom and pop businesses, the small businesses, have been shutting down. They can't keep up. Meanwhile, the billionaire corporations, the Amazons, the Walmarts, they're doing great. They're setting profit records. So the rich are getting richer, and as a result of government pushback, the poor are getting poorer. We are currently in a state where inflation and gas prices are going up. Now, here's the thing. Our media is working very hard to get you to blame somebody. Whether that's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, our Congress, former Congress, whatever. Okay? But I'm going to blame the billionaires, the elites. Here's why. Are they affected by the high gas prices as much as we are? No. Are they affected by the surging price of food as much as we are? No. Are they affected by supply chain issues? Well, maybe. I don't know about that one. But we're seeing all these things start to come together, and the price of goods are going up, and the rich are getting richer, and we are continuing to struggle. I'm not going to fall into the trap of trying to figure out, put the finger on one person, because I think it's a group of people. We are being oppressed in the information that we are getting when it comes to COVID. Uh-oh. I want to explain two things to you. You can look these up, okay? There is something called the Bayh-Dole Act, which was 1980, I think. Birch Bayh from Indiana and Bob Dole co-authored a bill that says if you work for a federal institution, university, CDC, FDA, any of these institutions, if you work for an institution that's federally funded, you're paid by the federal tax money, and you come up and you do research and you find something that can be patented, that patent belongs to you. Okay? Now, on the surface, when I first heard this, I was like, well, what's wrong with that? They did the work. Until you start to realize that we are being funneled to utilize what's patented. Because there's more money in that. See what's happening? There's more money in that. Again, why pay 26 cents for a pill when you can pay $26 and line the pockets of somebody else? What I'm getting ready to tell you is in no way, shape, or form trying to push an opinion on any of the therapies that we have available to us, whether it's the vaccine or these other things that are offered. But I want you to understand this as well. I want to say it was in 1984-ish, I think, a bill was passed that stated if you are injured by a vaccine, you cannot sue the vaccine manufacturer. Look it up if you don't believe me. It's there. Okay? Now, what does that mean? Well, that means these vaccine manufacturers have zero liabilities. If you get injured, well, sorry. I bet Ford would like to have that. If they put a faulty brake system in your car, you can sue them and they have to answer for that. But if you get injured by a vaccine, and it happens, you can't do anything. You have no recourse. Protection. So here we are. We're all fighting and striving, wanting to know, what's the best course of action for all this stuff, and we get various answers. The science says wear a mask. The science says masks aren't helping. Science says get vaccinated. Science says don't get vaccinated. And the media continues to push different ideas to keep us fighting with each other. Because we're fighting with each other about whether to be vaxxed and how to handle this stuff. Then we're not focused on what's really happening. It's all smoke and mirrors. So who cares if the church is split, right? They don't. They don't care if the church is split. Satan doesn't care. Satan loves it. Please, argue about it. Here's another thing to think about. Now, I know these mRNA vaccines have been around for a while, but they hadn't really tested them on this, right? But they got these rolled out pretty quick to us, okay? Which I think, it can be good. But how long have we been fighting cancer with chemotherapy and radiation? We put millions upon millions of dollars into research for cancer, and we're still doing the same old stuff. We're being oppressed. There was a pastor at Dale Methodist, and I was told this story. I wasn't actually there. He used to work in the pharmaceutical industry before he became a pastor. And somebody asked him one time, why would you give up all that money? Man, you were making good money working in the pharmaceutical industry. His answer was this: there's a cure for cancer. Our government will not okay it. So I'm out. Here's another thing you hear about in the news. Now, when Donald Trump talked about HCQ and zinc as being an alternative method, what did the news do? They came out and said, he's going to get people killed. Well, I don't know how to get it without a prescription, first of all. Secondly, if you hear some doctors talking, they say, the HCQ with zinc is somewhat effective, but they don't know that it's great, right? That's what doctors are saying. And it's something that's been around forever. We know the risks and all that, okay? So then comes remdesivir. Dr. Fauci pushed this pill. I think it's like $1,000 a pop. That's a lot of money for one pill. Other people came out and they said ivermectin seems to be working really, really well. Well, what's the media tell us? These people are taking horse paste, horse dewormers. They're trying to convince you that this ivermectin, which is very cheap, which has been around for a while, which has won a Nobel Peace Prize, has been called a wonder drug, is damaging people and killing people. That people are just randomly going to Tractor Supply Company and getting tubes of this stuff and, just downing it. It's not the case. Doctors are prescribing this. You probably know somebody that's had it. They may not tell you because the media has divided us over this. But I have talked to doctors who said that they're using it. It's working. And they combine that with vitamin D3. I had one doctor tell me that studies show that vitamin D3, if you can get your levels of vitamin D3 up, that it lessens your risk of cancer. And I was like, wow. Why is the CDC and the FDA not telling us this stuff? Because the chemo. So what I'm trying to show you is we are being oppressed. They are utilizing our health and other things to line their own pockets. Now, the Zephaniah side, that's the Amos side of America. Let's talk about the Zephaniah side, the side of worshiping idols. Obviously, there is a group of people in this country, their idol is money. I don't need to talk about that. We have created our own idols. Whether it's CNN, Fox, Breitbart, MSNBC, Republicans, Democrats, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or Dr. Fauci. We have created our own idols. We have put our faith in a group of people who time and time again will let us down. 2 years ago, if I would have said who trusts the government, hands would have flown up. Or nobody, let me rephrase that. Nobody would have raised their hand. We're all sketchy about the government. We know, everybody always talks about this. They line their own pockets. They're doing this, they're doing that. But over the last year and a half or 2 years, we have just kind of given in. Are we worshiping them as an idol? Our idols can even be pastors. I've always been bothered by people, when a pastor leaves a church, they're called somewhere else, they retire, quit, whatever. People quit going to the church. Are you going there for God or are you going there for a pastor? I don't want you coming here for me. I don't think you are. I want you coming here for God. I want you coming here and worship Jesus, to build on that relationship you have with Him. So we have given in to these entities, government, doctors, notarized doctors, news media outlets. We get into the echo chamber. If we hear something that we agree with, we like, coming from one of these news media sites, we call that good news. If they say something we don't like, we call it fake news. The challenge for you today is to cast away these idols and ask God for truth. I had this revelation this week. I was thinking about there's a couple, they're from the United Kingdom. They're based out of Jacksonville, Florida. They come up here regularly. They go to the refuge. I've met with them. I spoke with them. Been in classes that they have offered. Their name's Mark and Julie Morse. Really good people. And before COVID, their mission field was, the world. They were going to Africa and Australia and all these places. Since COVID, their mission field is America. And I was like, that's weird. 20 years ago, when I was attending Hatfield Methodist as a young lad, they were supporting missionaries. Many churches in the area were supporting missionaries. You don't hear that so much anymore. My good friend Jerry, I talk about often. He's in a Bible study group or a prayer group or something. There's a man from Nigeria. And the man from Nigeria told him one time, he said, when I was young, Americans were in Nigeria all the time preaching the gospel. Now, Nigerians are in America. I think that speaks volumes to where we as a country are. We are sending missionaries, but it's nowhere near the number we used to. And God is actually planting missionaries here to try to reach us. Most missionaries that we understand and know are going to places to build up, to start churches. The missionaries here in America, it's like a tornado's come through and they're trying to rebuild the church. And again, it's because we have slipped into this trap of idol worship by our oppressors. But the Bible, if the warning from James for the oppressors wasn't enough, I want to read to you Psalm chapter 9, verse 9 and 10. That's James still. Where's my little bookmark? There we go. Yeah. You can read along with me or just listen. It's only 2 verses. The Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Those who know your name trust in you. For you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. You hear that? If we're seeking him, he's going to protect and take care of us. It doesn't mean you're always going to have toilet paper. It doesn't mean gas prices are going to drop for you. But he's going to take care of you. So the challenge today is if you find that any of these things I've mentioned or something else maybe God's laid on your heart has become an idol. I think it's unfair. Betty kind of mentioned how the one pastor prays for our doctors and nurses and thanks God for the hands and feet. There are some people that are pointing the fingers at these doctors and nurses, and they're just doing what they can. They're doing what the government allows them to do. Some of these doctors are prescribing ivermectin. The patient gets to the pharmacy says, well, what's it being used for? Doctor says COVID. Pharmacy says, I can't do it because our government is threatening them with fines. I think this is sad because there are a lot of people out there that just want to help, whether it's giving you the vaccine or trying this other treatment. They just want to help. And our media and our government is tying their hands, trying to force them and funnel them into what they want. Because billionaires need more money. Millionaires need more money. If anything, for me, COVID has exposed 2 things. First of all, the evil that's out there, but also the goodness. Because what I have seen over these last year and a half in both churches are people not giving up, trying to find a different way, and pushing through. And if we don't give in to the media narrative, the government narrative, we cast away these idols and we focus on the truth of God, the truth of the gospel. We seek his truth. He's going to show us. And we'll be better off for it. We're going to have the comfort of Psalm 9. To know that the Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Those who know his name, who trust in him, know that the Lord will never forsake those who seek him. So if you get, maybe you're not dealing with the idol worship issue or whatever, Maybe you've slipped in your seeking of Him. Today is the day to challenge, hopefully is accepted. Seek God. Seek His kingdom. Seek His righteousness. Seek His truth. Because I believe through Him, we can flip the script and we can turn this around. America is not the same America that I knew growing up. I could probably say that for a lot of countries. But I have a lot of hope that if we can turn back to God, maybe start a small fire here in Richland. We're a fire-free church, but not a holy fire-free church, okay? And maybe we can spread that. Be the light, be the hands and feet. To be purveyors of truth. Say, maybe the vaccine is what God led you to do, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. Maybe it's not. I'm fine with that too. Because maybe what's good for one, God knows. God knows your body. He knows your chemical makeup. He knows all this stuff. Maybe what's good for you isn't necessarily good for me. Because I'm created maybe just a little bit differently than you. We have to understand that. And when we do, we come to that understanding, we begin to love more, to embrace the differences, and hopefully to turn to God and just thank Him for that. So I hope that you'll accept that challenge. If I rattled your feathers a little bit today, hopefully you'll come back and won't go away mad, but you'll go away thinking. And we're going to jump into Advent here in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, we're going to be into the Christmas season. So let's roll into that with a newfound focus on God and truth. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for the challenges. I also thank you for truth. Lord, I pray that we take everything that we hear, whether it's from the government, the media, people around us, and we really dig in to see if that is your truth. Because that's important, Lord. It's important that we are seeking your truth. Our media is really good about writing headlines saying, the sky is purple, and then writing an article about how the sky is actually blue, which is some people think is purple. Lord, they try to grab our attention with these carefully worded headlines. First couple of paragraphs are carefully worded, and then you get into the meat of the story. Help us to go through and see. If we're going to read the news, we're going to listen to the news, to listen through your ears and not ours. To lean on your understanding, not ours. And Father, I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.